Welcome back. Time for another build, and I am excited for this one. This is going to be great. The perfect grade red frame. Now, I've always loved how the red frame looks. The real grade, I think it was, not that great of a model, but I do love the looks, and I'm really excited to dive into the perfect grade. So we'll do the usual, unbox it, time-lapse out the build, and then I'll come around at the end and sum it all up for you. So let's get it out of the box. All right, let's see about getting into this thing. I may have to take it a bit off camera here. It is a big one. That is a bit of a pain to get out. Oop. Making all sorts of noise over here. All right, let's see what we've got here. So our katana, of course. Lots of stickers, scabbard weapons. Of course, our reds, some nice golds, some really pretty colors here. More reds, more whites. Not surprisingly, that our red frame has lots of reds, right? Let's see what we have hiding under here. No idea what we're looking at here. Oh, a little bit of comic anime action there. Our instruction manual, which is interesting. I'll have to read through, do some translating on that one, see what that's all about. Our construction manual, which is what we would expect it to be. So 25 pages, not as big, honestly, as I would have thought. A little bit of metal spot there. Some more decals. Tons of reds and whites, of course. Don't know what those are. Guess we'll find out. The only thing I'm not seeing that I really had hoped to see was an action base. I was really hoping it had one with it. Anyway, we'll get to the build. I'm really looking forward to this one. let's take a look at it. So I'm going to start out with a bit of a disclaimer here, right? I am sure every builder out there has at least one, probably multiple models that they just love, right? Doesn't matter the grade, doesn't matter the version. It just calls to you, sings to you, however you want to put it. Red frame is one of mine. I just absolutely love it. So it really doesn't matter what grade or anything. I just love it. And of course, the scale and details you get out of the perfect grade is just beautiful. It really is. I could just sit and look at it. It's just that kind of a model. This one clocked in at about a 12-hour build time, and that's real build time. I've got a countdown timer now that when I sit down, I start, when I get up, pause, and I do that as I build. I felt like I wanted to give folks a little bit more realistic idea of what kind of time commitment you're looking at. And if you've watched the time lapses any or seen any of my other videos, I snip and clean up with razor knife pretty well. I'm not in here with sandpaper, glass files, trying to get rid of nub marks. Decals, I do a few because I don't want to talk about something that I didn't do, but oftentimes I don't do all of them as far as the review. Sometimes I go back later and add them. So the 12 hours is definitely kind of a minimum. If you were going to really get in here and clean up, if you're really kind of a decal person, this would probably easily be 15, 16 hours worth of build. I mean, no problem. The instructions for this one are really straightforward. I was really surprised and quite happy with that. There was no like ambiguous sections. I've got a lot of Gundams, right, where the instructions are kind of weird and you're like, you get the part and you're trying to figure out exactly what it's trying to tell you. These instructions weren't like that. I didn't run into that at all. This kit has a lot of directional orientation kind of specific parts. You see it a lot, right? You get to double tick attention in the instructions, but the instructions are really clear on it, but you just want to pay attention because those are there and a lot of them. There's a lot of rubber parts on this kit, like 3 sheets of rubber parts. So that kind of gives you an idea of how much movement, twisting, flexing that you can get out of this one. I'm a little annoyed still that the kit didn't come with any kind of action base, because if you really want to pose this guy at all, you need a base. The model itself is tight and you can do a lot with it, but any kind of really dynamic pose, you're going to need to get yourself a base. But overall, it went together really smoothly. I was really happy. There was a couple of sticky spots. You can see here at the feet, there's some pistons involved. You can see the chrome there. These are part of the like orientation specific. These pistons are oval, not round. So you have to have the top and the bottom part lined up right. And in the case of the feet, there's 2, and then the center piece that kind of goes together to hold it all together. So a little tricky there. The waist has 4 of those, right? So now you've got like 8 pieces you have to line up, right? Because they're oval. And then of course the pin from the torso to the waist. So that one took a little bit to kind of get together. The hands for this kit are probably the most complicated thing I have ever cut out of a runner, okay? If you've done fully articulated hands, you know, right, that there's just a lot of gates involved. There's stuff around each finger, the hands, the wrists. So, I mean, there's easily 10, 15 gates involved with just a fully articulated hand. On this one, the hands are 2 runners kind of melded together. And so you actually end up with nearly twice the gates. There's probably 20 to 25 gates involved with each hand. And of course, when you pack that many together, that puts them in bad spots, it puts them close together. They were just kind of a pain to get out and get cleaned up well, but be aware of that one. I definitely found too that it was a lot easier to deal with the scabbard and the katana if you pulled the hands off. And honestly, I doubted with just the small little slot that the hand would be able to support this katana, because this thing is huge. I'll show you a picture to kind of give you some scale. But obviously it does. supports it just fine. Really happy with it. And just really just a great build. I keep saying it, I know. I have built master grades that felt more complicated than this, even though the reality is this one was definitely more complicated. It was just that smooth. The LED unit, there's one in the head. Doesn't come with batteries. So if that's important to you, you'll need to track you down a battery as you get going. The decals on it are stickers and dry transfers. I personally am not a fan of the dry transfer, but I mean, I like how they look, but the process of getting them on is just more than I have patience for. So I did a few of each. Definitely for the dry transfers, you'd have to take them apart quite a bit, right? Because you need the space, you need some place to put pressure, and just fully assembled, you're just not gonna get that. So be ready for that. True red frame fashion, there are some loose stuff. The back part back here is pretty loose. If you handle it much, this part comes off on me a lot. The cockpit isn't loose per se, it's just kind of a weird connection. It's a small connection and it's at a weird angle. Just handling it, it stays on fine, but if you want to manipulate the cockpit, don't be surprised if you end up holding that thing because it's just a weird connection. The legs, again, not loose, but the nubs that are on there are really short. So if you're trying to pose him and you're putting any kind of outward pressure and twisting the legs, they're gonna pop off on you, okay? And luckily I had it laying down as I was doing with it, so when it popped off, I was like, huh. But I kind of feared that if I had him like this and was doing it and one popped off, the pressure on the other one might, and this thing would have fallen to the ground and I would have been completely devastated, right? So something to be aware of. A lot of leftover parts, okay? A lot. In my process, I have stuff over here I'm working on, parts, runners are usually in a box over here, and as I clean out a runner, I usually toss it on the floor behind me over here because I have had times when I thought a runner was empty and it comes around later, there's some itty bitty little part. And so I throw them on the floor so they're not cluttering up what I'm doing, but at the same time, they're kind of close. Anyway, I finish the model, do what I want to do for stickers, get him all posed. I'm like, awesome. I turn around and start cleaning up, and there are a lot of runners still left in my box. To the point I'm like flipping through the instructions, right? I'm like, I missed something and I missed something big. And eventually I realized, no, I didn't. Flip to the front of the instructions, look at the runners themselves, and you can see all the X's of the parts you're not going to use. And there are a lot of unused parts, right? Like here's an example. Easily half of these two runners you don't even use. And when I looked at it, there's 27 runners roughly involved in this kit. 10 of them have leftover parts on them. So don't freak out like I did when you get done and you just have a lot of leftover parts. And really, I mean, altogether, I enjoyed this kit so much. I wish I had friends that would just call me up and be like, dude, I want red frame, but I have no idea how to build a Gundam. If I bought you a kit, would you do it? Because I would 100% do it again. I really would. And that's the red frame. So keep the comments and the suggestions coming. I really love them. I think my next 2, maybe 3 builds are going to be based on some suggestions folks have given me. And I really do love it because the Gundam world is so big, nobody could know it all, right? And so taking people's advice and feedback and being able to branch off into some build that I've never done, never thought of, didn't even know was there, I like that. It's fun for me. So keep those coming. And thanks for watching.